Welcome. Good morning. This is Dr. Jen. I am a lifestyle medicine physician and I'm passionate about food. I love trying to give a healthy twist to traditional recipes, and holiday baking is one of the things that we love to do with our family. So my daughter is here with us today, Riley. She loves to do all the holiday baking, and so we're going to share a couple of our favorite recipes. We're going to do a sugar cookie recipe, and then we're going to do a healthy brownie recipe. So sugar cookies are something that are a lot of fun to do with the family. A lot of times it's good to get the kids involved. They can help roll out, they can help decorate, so it's a lot of fun. And so we're going to share this recipe here. All of our recipes are plant-based, so we don't use dairy or eggs or butter. We use all plant-based ingredients, and so we'll be sharing what we do along the way. So I'll let Riley direct me on this recipe, and then I'll take over and do the brownies. So.
All right, so first I'm gonna take, this is a half a cup of butter. I just cubed it because that helps it soften faster. So you want a half a cup of butter softened, and that's earth balanced butter. It's a vegan butter, non-dairy butter. And then I'm gonna cream it together. Butter off. Huh?
Just getting the butter off the paddles.
It's probably fine.
Yeah, so you just want to do it so that it's so that it's kind of whipped and broken up. So.
Could have softened it a little more.
That's okay.
All right. So
next step is the sugar.
All right. Now I'm gonna add the sugar. So this is a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and then this is a half a cup of regular sugar. And then I'm just gonna beat it again for like a minute.
Sometimes it's good to let the butter get a little bit softer so that it's a little easier to work with, but it works, you know, once you beat it, it starts to soften as you mix.
And then I'm gonna add the pumpkin puree and the vanilla, and then we're gonna beat it again.
So the pumpkin puree is a substitute instead of using eggs. There's many different things that you can use instead of eggs. Some you can use flax meal with water. Some recipes you can use aquafaba, which is actually the liquid from beans, and that protein that whips nicely, it makes it, or applesauce or pumpkin puree. There's a variety of different things you can use to substitute for eggs. So this recipe calls for the pumpkin puree. Good. Actually, you want me to sift the other ingredients while you're doing that part?
Okay.
So what are we?
So over here, she's gonna sift together a cup and 3/4 worth of all-purpose flour, and then it's gonna be a teaspoon and a half of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So that's all in here, and then she's gonna, and then we're gonna sift it into this bowl, and then we're gonna sift it again into the mixture.
Right.
So that, I'll do the vanilla. Okay.
How much vanilla are you using?
A teaspoon. So I put 1/4 of a cup of pumpkin puree in here, and I'm going to put a teaspoon of vanilla, and then the sugar's in there. And then I'm gonna beat it for like a minute. All right.
Is that all mixed nicely? It's got a pretty orange color.
Should I show it?
You can see it under, actually,
I see it in there.
there.
And it won't taste like pumpkin at the end, but
It's just enough to give it that consistency that you would get from the eggs. So doesn't add any extra flavor. Okay, we're all sifted here, so I have to sift again.
all right. And then you sift it again into here.
Okay. Probably should do a little bit at a time. The fun part about holiday baking is the cleanup. Just kidding. But it is a lot of fun. But the flour everywhere. Says it's always good to have an assistant that helps with the cleanup part of it. Usually bribe them with the extra baked goods. So. This is good. How's that?
All right. And then we're gonna mix this just until it's incorporated. Don't over mix it. All right, so we got like a crumbly mixture going on here. Oops, spilt a bunch. Okay, and then we're gonna add a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons. So a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of
Non-dairy milk.
Non-dairy milk. So I'm using oat milk. I'm gonna put 2 teaspoons in.
I usually like to, when you're choosing a non-dairy milk, you can use any type. There are such a large variety now, more every day. Everything from oats, there is soy milk, which is the classic. There is rice milk, there is cashew milk, there's all different types. The biggest thing is when you're looking at milks is to just check the ingredients, and you want to just make sure that they have minimal ingredients. So this really just has water and hydrolyzed oats. And that's the best. You want to avoid any that have added sugars or any other emulsifiers or other nasties. Basically, you should be able to just read the ingredients and understand them. So that's the best tip there.
All right, so I'm gonna put my 2 teaspoons of milk in there. And then I'm just gonna take a spatula or a wooden spoon or whatever you have. And I'm gonna mix it until it forms a dough. And then if it's too dry, if it's not forming a dough, add more milk. If it's too wet, you can add a little bit more flour. But you just want it to be a dough.
So stick together a little bit. It's
Yeah.
a pretty flavor color.
It smells like pumpkin now.
It does.
But it doesn't smell like pumpkin at the end. But it smells nice.
Looks pretty doughy.
So if you don't want to do pumpkin, like my mom said before, you could do applesauce. The flax egg is 1 tablespoon of flax flax meal and then 3 tablespoons of water, and you just mix it together and you let it sit, and that equates 1 egg. So that's something really easy to do if you just want to use a regular recipe and make it vegan. I do that all the time. Okay, so we got a dough. This is pretty dough-like, and then I'm gonna take, where's the, you get the wax paper? I'm gonna take some wax paper. Or you could just cover the bowl and put the whole bowl in there. But I'm gonna put some wax paper. And I'm gonna put the dough onto the wax paper.
And you're gonna put it in the refrigerator?
Yes, but I'm gonna form it into a ball first so it's not all crumbly like this.
Great.
So. Just gonna kind of use the wax paper. Form it into a ball. Or you can use your hands. You don't have to use wax paper.
Yeah, if you don't mind getting your hands dirty, you can use your hands.
There it is. Now you got a ball, and then I'm just gonna put this in the refrigerator. So you put this in, oh, sorry, hold on, let me close it first. So you could put this in the freezer for 15 minutes, or put it in the refrigerator for 30 to 45 minutes, and then up to overnight. So either one, whichever works for you. So I'll just put it right here. All right. So I have some dough that I made earlier. What?
Okay, good. So that's how it looks after. It's a little bit stiffer after it's in the refrigerator, so it's easier to work, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then I am just going to take some flour and put it on the bottom. So there's 2 ways you could do this. You can roll it out with a rolling pin, or you can form balls and put it on the sheet. So I'll show you how to do both. So first I'm gonna roll it out. I'm gonna do the roll out method, but I'm gonna break this dough in half since I'll show you both of them. And I'll just put this to the side. All right. This is a little cold. I'm warming up my hands a little bit.
It's easier to work if it's a little bit warm, right?
Yeah.
Not too warm.
Not too warm, but a little bit.
What's your favorite type of cookie for Christmas?
Me, I love sugar cookies because it's fun to cut out the different shapes. I really love chocolate, so I love chocolate chip cookies. And there's this recipe with they're chocolate rosemary cookies, and which is a strange combination, but it tastes really good together. I highly recommend.
Maybe we'll share
So I
that
make
recipe.
that.
We can add that recipe in so you can see. Yeah, they're really a family favorite, but chocolate rosemary. It's a nice touch, the rosemary.
Alright. So I'm just gonna put some flour on here so that way I can dip my cookie cutter. So I just have a star cookie cutter. You use whatever you want. And put it out. And then I'm gonna put it on a baking sheet, which I don't think I have right now. But you just cut it out and you put it on a baking sheet spaced about 2 inches away from each other. So I'm just gonna cut out a bunch.
Great. And how long do they have to bake?
Oh wait, you can't bake them yet.
Oh, you can.
First, okay, so for the shapes, you have to, after you put it on a baking sheet, put it in the freezer for 10 minutes. So that way they harden and they'll stay, hold their shape when you bake it. So then after you put it in the freezer for 10 minutes, and then you can throw it right in the oven. So it's 350 degrees. For the shapes, it's 8 to 10 minutes. And then when I show you the circles, that will be 10 to 12 minutes, but we'll go over that again. All right, so here's some shapes. Roll it to whatever thickness you want. Just be wary when you cook it. If it's a little too thin, put your baking time lower.
Yeah,
if it's thicker,
if you like it thicker, if you like a more cakey cookie, you can make it thicker. If you like it to be crunchy, the thinner ones. But again, you know, you have to adjust your baking time so they don't burn if it's thinner.
All right, so this sauce actually makes a pretty cakey cookie. Okay, so you take about like a tablespoon of dough and you roll it up. I'm gonna put season the paper for everything.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna roll it up. I'm just gonna lay it out. It's gonna be 2 inches away from each other, just like
the stars.
Yep.
The shapes.
The shapes. And just roll it out. And then all right. And then you're going to use the bottom of a cup, or I'll use this dish, and you're going to take some sugar. Let me get some sugar. So I'm just going to pour some sugar over here. Take some sugar out. All right, it's plenty. Oops. Making a mess. And then I'm gonna take the bottom of this. I'm gonna wet it a little bit so the sugar sticks. So I'm gonna wet the bottom, and then I'm just gonna press it into the sugar, and then use it to press the cookie down until like a disc shape, and then
Cool. That would be on the cookie sheet if we had the cookie sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about the cookie sheet.
Nice.
And you just press them down, and it makes these nice little disc shapes, and with the sugar on top, it looks really pretty.
Yeah, very nice.
All right.
You could probably
And
do
that's
different
it.
colored sugars too if you wanted. You know, they have different ones, beet sugars, things like that, to get a little more variety. Maybe.
Yep. Could do any of that. We're also gonna make frosting for it, so you could color the frosting too, if
That's
if
true.
you prefer that. All right. So these will go in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes, and these 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay, great. We'll clear the area a little bit.
And you don't have to put these in the freezer first. You could just cook them. Only the shapes to hold their shape. All right, so here's the finished cookies. Here are the shapes, and then here are the circular ones.
Very nice.
And
look
then,
yummy.
so, and then here's
Ready to eat them
frosting. Here's frosting that I made earlier. So for the frosting, you just beat half a cup of butter, and then
Non-dairy butter.
yeah, non-dairy butter. And then you could put a little bit, the vanilla is optional, but you could put some vanilla extract in there, and then beat it together again. And then you add, I sifted it. I sifted a half a cup of powdered sugar at a time into the mixture. The recipe says 2.5 cups to 3 cups. I only used 2 cups. And then you have to put, then you put milk in to your desired consistency. So if it's too wet, add more powdered sugar. If it's too dry, add more milk, and that's it. It's easy.
And then you were saying you could color. You could also add food coloring, you know, because it is the holiday. Sometimes you want to use green or red or something. The problem is a lot of times food colorings have have not so nice chemicals in them. So there actually are some non-chemical ways to color, so natural ways to color your food. So actually we collected a little list here that we'll share with you, but beetroot powder is great. Like you'll notice if you use actual beets that they actually stain your hands because it's a great, the natural color from it. There's also the like turmeric, when you think about that, that yellow, that's another great natural color. So the red, so beetroot powder is good for red. For green, you can actually use matcha powder or green spirulina, which is sometimes matcha powder is probably easier to get locally, but any of these things you can order online. So, but we'll post the list with it when we do the recipes for the cookies.
So I'm just gonna use a knife. You can use whatever you want, spatula.
Yeah, we have a neat little frosting spatula also that works well at home.
You can use a frosting bag, however you want to frost your cookies. So I'm just gonna spread frosting over it as much as you would like, or as little as you'd like.
And then you could do some sprinkles if you want to do that.
You could do
Add some colored sugars.
Yeah, you could do some holiday sprinkles. You can color the icing.
With all those fun colors we talked about. The beetroot powder. Make a pretty red.
Yeah.
Cherries, you could put fruit on them if you wanted to do that. The berries. Raisins.
Raisins. All right. You just decorate them however you like. It's a little messy, but there you go. There's a finished cookie. You can also frost these ones. I don't know whether you want to. I think they're good just plain, but yeah.
They are good to play. I had to sample them before we came just to make sure. Quality control. But okay, so I'm going to make some brownies now. My recipe is has no added sugar. Well, it has natural sugars, but we'll come back and do that.
All right.
So now we're going to make peppermint brownies. So these brownies actually are free of processed sugar. And the thing is, you can actually have them completely sugar-free and just use dates. But this recipe, I kind of mixed peppermint in, so it's kind of a fun holiday theme to it. So we're going to use dates. Dates are great because, number one, it's a whole food. I always like to try to use whole foods when I can. And they're a great natural sweetener. They have fiber, they're packed with all kinds of nutrients, and like I said, natural sweeteners, antioxidants. So this calls for a cup of dates, and usually you want to make sure it's packed. And the other thing is, what I like to do is so that's like a packed cup of dates, is I like to add some hot water to soften the dates a little bit and also bring some moisture into it so it's not too dry. So I actually heated up a little bit of water here. So I'm just going to cover them with water while I get the other ingredients together, just to, let them soften a little bit and absorb a little bit of water. So that's just covered, to cover them. And so this recipe is also gluten-free. So what I'm going to use is actually rolled oats, and I'm going to make them into a flour. So it is a cup of rolled oats, or 3/4 cup. So I'm going to use my high-speed blender, but you can also use a food processor or whatever you have available. So this, I love my high-powered blender though, because it does make it really easy to blend all kinds of things. So 3/4 cup of oats. And I'm going to grind that into a flour.
But yeah, we really do use that blender a lot.
It's great. You can blend. And the great thing about, oat flour is the benefit. I do need another bowl, actually. just in the meantime. So again, it's whole grain, so you get the benefit of that added fiber. And a lot of times, you know, people may not be gluten allergic, but sometimes people are gluten sensitive, so it's just a nice alternative to using regular all-purpose flour. You know, you can always use all-purpose flour if you like. If you are gluten-free, you always want to make sure that you get that it's labeled gluten-free because unfortunately sometimes there's cross-contamination when things are grown. So this one is actually not labeled gluten-free. It's labeled, so you just always have to make sure you look for that on the thing. Okay.
Right, hold on a sec.
Actually, I'm just going to toss it in here. That's fine.
Okay.
So this. And actually, I need my oat milk. Can you toss it?
Yes.
And one other thing I need is a spatula.
Spatula.
So, and then this also calls for whole almonds. So you can use, I actually did the recipe using almond flour, but again, you could also substitute all-purpose flour. If you're using the flour, I'd use a little bit less. So this calls for a cup of almonds. Instead of if you're using the almond flour, I'd probably do 3/4 of a cup. And then, rest of my oats are stuck in the bottom of the blender. Okay. So I need 2 cups of oat milk, and again, always looking at the ingredients to make sure. Again, it can be any plant milk. We like oat because it tends to be creamier. But again, you always want to make sure that you check those ingredients to make sure there's no added sugar or other added things. Sometimes they do add vitamin D, which is fine, but you want to just avoid basically anything that you don't understand. So I look for simple ingredients. So 2 cups of milk I'm putting in there.
Spatula.
Thank you, assistant. And then I'm going to put in vanilla, a teaspoon of vanilla. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, sorry.
I have a half a teaspoon.
I'm just going to use the water.
Oh.
I'm just going to plug it. About 2 teaspoons of vanilla.
We have this.
Okay. 2 teaspoons of vanilla and a cup of raw almonds. These are my raw almonds. The benefit of using the raw almonds is they aren't, you know, the flour's a little bit drier. The raw almonds, again, have a better, more flavor, but also it's not as dry, so it adds a little bit more moisture to the brownies. Make sure I'm not leaving anything out. Almonds. And then I'm going to add my dates. So I'm going to get rid of this extra water. Oh, I'm going to add a little bit of peppermint too. So this is the peppermint chocolate brownies. So that's going to add half a teaspoon, of peppermint.
Peppermint extract.
Peppermint extract. Now I'm going to blend. Oops. And you want to blend until it's smooth. So it might take a little bit here. Mix it a little bit more just to make sure all those almonds got completely chopped. Okay, so now I'm going to do a cup of cocoa powder. I use cacao powder. You can use regular cocoa powder as well. The cocoa powder, it's about the same. The cacao tends to be, the cocoa tends to be a little bit drier. So, but cacao powder is basically raw, unprocessed. It's less processed than the cocoa. So again, it has more of those antioxidants and vitamins that you get. It has, actually cocoa is great. It has antioxidants. It also has iron in it. It has fiber. So it's actually pretty healthy for you. So a cup of that. I don't know what I bought. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of, I lost my measuring spoon, a teaspoon of baking powder, which I don't have.
You
but
can use some.
I dropped it on the floor. So I'm gonna do that. And then let me just make sure I have everything. Then okay, so then, and then you can use just, I use like a sprinkle, really like a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, just to bring out the flavor. It just helps with the, believe it or not, the contrast brings out the sweetness more. So I will do that. It smells really chocolatey.
It does.
So now I'm just going to mix this all together. Oh, I forgot and I do need a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar also. It's our neat little liquid measure. I think that's a teaspoon. Right? Yeah. Okay. I'll add that after I hit this. And then I actually also, I'm going to add this here now. I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of maple syrup just to take a little bit of the bitterness out. We tried it both ways actually, and with the glaze on top, it's actually really tasty. But the maple syrup just brings a little bit more of the flavor in. So just a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. I'm just going to mix this until it's all well incorporated. Oh, gently mix so you don't get the powder all over the kitchen. So the cleanup crew doesn't get mad at you. And then I'm just going to add about a half a cup of dairy-free chocolate chips, which again you can leave out if you're really, going the sugar-free route. This is perfectly fine without the chocolate chips, but this gives you this peppermint recipe. I'm just making it a little more fun. So the chocolate chips. So this is dairy-free, and I'm going to put, just going to pseudo measure, so about a half a cup.
That's semi-sweet chocolate chips, and then it just says dairy-free on it. A lot of places have it, and it's pretty. Most of the semi-sweet chocolate chips are dairy-free, anyways.
Yeah, you just have to be careful because sometimes they have. So some will have like butter and milk fat, and some will have cocoa butter. So you can just look at the ingredients. Some are naturally just don't have it and they're not labeled, but if you look at the ingredients, but some will have it. So you always have to make sure that it doesn't have that added milk or milk fat or butter. So I'm just going to give this a little rinse. So this is actually a non-stick pan. So the great thing about this recipe is it's dairy-free, sugar-free, basically, and oil-free. And it's just as creamy and moist as what you would have with you know, if you use those traditional ingredients. So it's fun. So you can put, I usually put parchment paper on the bottom, or you can do it without because this one is non-stick. So the key is if you're using a non-stick pan. If you aren't using a non-stick pan, you can use a little bit of coconut oil or a little bit of, you know, vegetable oil spray just to make sure that it doesn't stick. And then that's it. And then, so you preheat the oven to 350, and I'm trying to do this without making a mess. And then you,
Hold it.
thank you.
Oh,
Did I make a mess?
we made a mess anyways. It's
I
okay.
can't see.
It happens.
It does. That's part of baking. It's a full kitchen experience. So it bakes for about 40 minutes. That's good.
You good?
Okay. Yeah, you can let go.
Oh,
That's
okay.
good. I'm just going to put the rest. Just going to make it smooth it out a little bit so that it's okay for camera. So then we'll smooth it out a little bit, and then it can go in the oven, like I said, for bakes for 40 minutes. You can check it about 35 minutes to make sure, and usually you can take a toothpick or, you know, a utensil and just make sure that it's not too moist on the inside. So for this, also for the glaze on top, what I did was a little bit of chocolate chips. I did a cup of chocolate chips, a little bit of vegan butter, and some peppermint sticks, or you can use, you know, peppermint, and you can just crush it. I used the rolling pin and smash it, and then you just glaze on top. And again, if you're doing the sugar-free route, you can do that without those options. There actually are sugar-free chocolate chips as well, so you can look for that if you want to add that extra chocolate in there. But there you go. So you have a basically sugar-free, oil-free, nice tasty dessert to have for the holidays. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We will post the recipes and look for next episodes of plant-based cooking with Dr. Jen and guests. Thank you, Riley, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Cat TV, for having us.